Up next on Tech News Today, the NSA's bulk warrantless wiretapping program is done for. The Amazon Echo is working on its Whisper. Content creators on Facebook can now get paid when someone freeboots their stuff. Sam Machkovech chatted with Ron Howard about Einstein, and 3D printers could one day roam planet Mars, building houses autonomously. All that and more coming up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1757, recorded Friday, April 28th, 2017. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Box.com, bringing people and ideas together so businesses can work as one. 71,000 companies, including the majority of the Fortune 500, are already on Box. For a free 2-week trial and to find out more, visit Box.com.
Welcome to Tech News Today. If this is your first time here, well, welcome to you too. We're glad to have you. We're glad to have you if it's your first time or your 1700th time or your 1757th time. Yeah, or just your 1000th time. We talk about the tech news here, and I'm Megan Maroney.
And I'm Jason Howell. I like a nice round number. So if you're here for the 1000th, then you're special. There you go.
However many times, I hope you're keeping track, like a prisoner, like marks on the wall.
Yeah, that's how we want everyone that listens or watches this show to feel like a prisoner, marking the wall every single time there's a new episode. The National Security Agency is ending its warrantless wiretapping program that targeted American communications that in any way mentioned the names of foreigners currently under surveillance. Critics have long held that scanning the content of Americans' email and text messages constituted a breach of the Fourth Amendment, which bars unlawful search and seizure, since in this case the emails were being monitored and tracked based on their contents and not based on the sender or recipient of them. The NSA issued a statement saying it will end the program as well as delete the majority of upstream data that was generated from it. And I guess, this has been going on for now a couple of years. Initially, this was a Snowden revelation, and then there was deeper analysis by the New York Times 4 years ago or so. Last year, I guess the problem was kind of exacerbated. Some internet companies lump a large amount of communications together. And in doing so, if any one of those pieces of communications had one of these names or the numbers or whatever that was being tracked by the NSA, then the entire batch would be taken in and would be potentially subject to use by the NSA for any of their investigations. And so basically the NSA was allowed to continue as long as it compartmentalized all of that bundled data and didn't touch it. And it turned out that analysts were found to be accessing that. The NSA actually reported that themselves to the FISC.
Yeah, this is a surprise, I think. I mean, it was late in the day that we heard about it, and I can't really wrap my head around it. So they've ended what they call upstream collection, and downstream collection that's the PRISM program that was discovered by Edward Snowden. So upstream is what they're going to end, and then they say they're going to delete all the upstream data as soon as it is practical. So whenever that is.
As soon as we've done whatever we originally planned to do with it.
Right. I say, how about now? Now is now practical. So, it's great for anyone concerned with surveillance, anyone who believed that this was against our Fourth Amendment right, the right to the rights against unreasonable search and seizure.
Right.
So this is good news. It's good news in what I feel like is a big many days of bad news when it comes to privacy and surveillance and internet freedom and many of the other things we talk about on the show. So if this is bad news for some reason, will you tell me now that I'm missing?
Yeah, actually tell me to let us know. I mean, my takeaway from this is that for however long it was a secret until suddenly it was outed initially by Snowden. And if that hadn't happened, it might still actually be a secret, might still be happening and everything. So I guess on one hand, I'm happy to see that it got to this point. On the other hand, I kind of feel a little defeated just kind of accepting the fact that, okay, but there's a whole lot of stuff that isn't on the table. And if this was behind the scenes and it was violating American citizens' constitutional right, yet it was still happening, you can't help but wonder what else is kind of going on. And I'm sure there's other things. But Senator Rod Wyden has been active opposing this for the last few years, and he promises to codify the new limit in new legislation by the end of the year, which is when the FISA Amendments Act is up for renewal. So we'll hear a little bit more about that.
Well, the voice of the Amazon Echo is getting more human. The company says new speech synthesis markup language, or SSLM, will allow the assistant, who shall not be named, to whisper, bleep out swear words, spell out words, speak at different volumes,
That was some swear words.
or rates, and more. Developers can use SSLM to control these new features to make their skills more robust, or perhaps even sexier in the case of the whispering. There are some examples on the Amazon site that you can test in the voice simulator on the developer portal. What do you think?
They need to have a differentiator between like whispering and like sexy whispering.
Really?
I feel like just whispering in and of itself isn't necessarily sexy,
sexy.
for a robot to do. Okay. I don't know. It's a nice level of control. I guess I just never thought of it. Like, I guess I've just gotten, because I don't have the Echo. We still need to do our Home Assistant swap, by the way. I don't have the Echo. I have the Google Home, and I've just kind of gotten used to the weird little idiosyncrasies that happen when a robot talks to you every day.
Well, I think
But it's nice to have the control.
The Google Home has more personality.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of inflection, actually.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, she gets the pronunciation of like a name, or when it's a possessive, totally changes the pronunciation of the name, even though when it's not a possessive, the name is normal. Weird things like that you're just like, okay, you're a robot. I know. I can see through those little colored dots on the surface of you.
Siri called Beyonce Beyonce the other day.
Bianc.
It was Bianc. It was Bianc, which was just...
Come on, Siri.
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
Aren't you like, isn't Apple friends with Bianc?
Yeah.
They're like close friends, right?
I tried to recreate it though, and it didn't. So I don't know. It was just in this one particular instance.
Yeah.
Personally, I like my robots with a monotone. I like that separation. It's the fourth wall, if you will. Keep the monotone. I don't need any sexy whispering.
Yeah, I think whispering robots is just kind of a weird thought.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd never thought that I'd live to see the day where my robots whispered at me.
But spelling out words, I guess. I mean, if you were doing a skill where, a spelling skill, for example, or something like that, I guess I could see where you could need that. If you're a developer, May 18th, there's a webinar you can attend to figure out how to use this. And if you build a skill, Amazon will give you a free T-shirt.
Lucky you. That could be your T-shirt hanging in your closet. That right there with that nondescript design on the front.
That, I believe, is the blue light that lights up at the top of the Amazon Echo.
It also looks like a talking bubble.
But that's the blue light, which is meant to be pleasant. But like if you're just sitting around doing nothing and it comes on, that it's terrifying.
It's bright. It's like the
well, no, it's just like why are you listening to me? It means she's listening, but she, as we know, is always listening.
Always listening. Yeah, I went looking for examples, like audio examples of what these sounded like. I couldn't find any. So if you do, email us tnt@twit.tv.
Well, you can test them. There's a website, I think.
I looked at the site, but I couldn't find any place on there to test
the voice
them.
simulator on the developer portal?
I didn't see it. I must have missed it.
I didn't see it either. I just trusted that it was there at the developer portal. But
we need robots to help us find robots.
Exactly, we do.
Facebook is riddled with video content that has been lifted and republished from the original sources, also known as freebooting or piracy, actually. In the past, rights holders could only choose to either block or take down those videos where they were found by the service. Now, with updates to Facebook's Rights Manager, a new option allows rights holders to claim ad earnings from those videos, routing revenue that's generated from those videos to the rights holders themselves instead of into the pockets of whoever happens to be pirating the content. And you can set up automated rules, which basically means there's no more need necessarily for a manual review process unless you actually want them. You can decide whether you want it to be blocked, whether you want to allow viewing of that with the metrics shown only to you, the owner, whether you want to allow that with the ad earnings routed to you, the owner, or set up for a manual review so you can go in there like you have been and looking at them.
So this, to me, is them getting serious about video and getting serious about creators. Facebook in the past has cared little or not at all about creators. They just want, they didn't care who was putting stuff up on Facebook as long as more people were going to look at it. Whereas YouTube has been creator focused for a lot longer. And Hank Green, who's a big YouTuber, has been complaining about this since 2015, just basically said, like, Facebook, you don't care about the creators. There's, all of my stuff is up there and you're making money off of it and I'm not getting the credit. And so it looks like they really they've seen what YouTube has been able to do by attracting creators, and they want that more. And they're going to be adding mid-roll ads in the middle of videos. So that's something that, they want to get serious about. And so these new features will be rolling out in the coming weeks. They're rolling out now, I guess. They'll be available to everyone in the coming weeks. Yeah, Facebook's done a good job kind of building up its video network, but it is like, man, the amount of times that I would see an obviously lifted video, and it's just got that, it's almost like you recorded on a tape 5 times in a row and it just kind of faded, a little bit less sharpness, not quite the same. It's not coming direct from the source. So basically what content owners will be able to do is they'll be able to upload their videos as a source for the indexing to kind of compare it against, and then basically that fingerprint is then applied to all the other videos uploaded to the service. Very similar to, like what you were saying, YouTube's Content ID. They've been doing this for years now, and I think it's been pretty effective in that regard. And now it's time again for the Sorry Not Sorry segment. Wired.com featured a story called Meet the Brilliant Young Hackers Who Will Soon Shape the World, with a photograph of the young hackers who were a little less than diverse. The story was widely criticized, as was the publication, as being out of touch with the times, #tired. Wired editor Nicholas Thompson responded to the criticism on Facebook without using the word sorry, but it sounded to me like he was a little bit, maybe kind of sorry. He was also very defensive, writing that the author included one scene in the story of a meeting with the woman who runs the college's official hacking group, and quoting the conclusion of the piece about these guys who, quote, aren't ambassadors of their generation. They're just 7 freshmen on one floor of one dorm on one college in one state in one country on our one and only planet with not one woman. I added that last part, but he didn't say that. The outline had a long piece about how this was a pointless article and ridiculous packaging that shows that Wired is over the hill. I'm more interested in the lack of diversity problem than whether Wired is over the hill or not. It is a problem, and why is it a problem? Women used to be 40% of computer science majors. Now they're only 17%. Why is that? Now, the president of the club that they refer to, she's quoted in this piece as saying she always feels guilty when she doesn't attend those meetings. And I think that is also fascinating to me. Like, why does she have to represent?
Why is it her responsibility to represent?
Right. I mean, she says, like, I don't want if a woman comes to this meeting, which is primarily male, I don't want them to see that it's all male. And, that gets to this other thing. It's like, it's exhausting to always feel like you have to represent if you're a minority of any kind.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that I, being a white male, do not know personally, but I have to imagine that it probably is. It's a lot of pressure. That's a large weight on the shoulders of people to have to feel to kind of, I don't know, be representative, I suppose, to step up. Yeah, I mean, when I kind of read through this piece and the outline.com's kind of write up about it, like, I definitely got the feeling that Wired's article about these guys was definitely packaged incorrectly. Like, claiming that it's about the brilliant hackers who will shape the world is way overstating it, because as you mentioned, and as we know, the people who are shaping the world aren't necessarily 7 dudes in a dorm, 7 mostly white dudes in a dorm who just happen to be really into computers and stuff, but however, this is a slice of life sort of thing. People do enjoy reading this stuff, kind of looking into other people's lives or vice versa. Wired just needs to do, I think, maybe be a little bit more focused on, being more representative, maybe in other pieces as well. You can do this article, but also, kind of spread it out, and that's good for everybody because it shows that technology can be inclusive and that it really should be, especially in this day and age. Yeah, he says that in that same issue, there's another list of more diverse people who are changing technology. I think maybe what people were taking issue with is the shaping our world. Right.
Because to me, that is the problem. Like, that is really the problem when you think about all this tech. I have obviously nothing against white men. But when you think about
I feel a little better now.
Oh, good. I'm glad I clarified that then. But if you think about the fact that all this technology is shaping the world, it is. If it's being created by all people who look like that group of guys in that dorm, then we have something to really worry about. So I think, they are the new hackers. That was the point. Like, they eat a lot of candy. The other point,
their floors are dirty.
Yeah.
It had a lot of very stereotypical kind of like you've read these kinds of articles before.
Yeah.
There are many examples of these types of articles for many years now.
Right.
Yeah.
And if I may just pick it apart a little more, there was a quote in it that says they're talking about hacking. They do it for school, outside of school. They do it for work, outside of work. They just do it for fun. And to me, that is also an interesting point too, because we continue to sort of laud this idea that if someone has a single focus and they're working on this all the time, then they're going to be the best at it. And I don't necessarily think that's true. And I think that I hate to generalize, but I do think that is there are many women who have a single focus, but when you think about it, that is something that is often very male. Like, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to focus. Where women are they tend to be more social. They tend to have other interests. And so if you start with saying like, well, you can only get far in technology by sitting at a computer, eating candy and focusing only on that and not doing anything else. Like, I think that having a varied life, and that, you have a varied life. Many men of all, diverse backgrounds have varied lives. But so I think that is also the gateway to being, to having a more interesting technology. If the people creating it are not always, if we don't always focus and award the people that are just of one single kind of focus.
Yeah, and obsession is good. Everything in moderation, as my dad once said. And apparently I repeat it as well. So it's become something that my kids are going to say. My dad once said everything in moderation. Great. Anyone curious to know what Apple's self-driving car technology looks like? We now have photographic evidence. A mere 2 weeks after Apple got permission to test its Project Titan technology on the roads of California. Onboard sensors, as you can see here, include a 64-channel LiDAR system by Velodyne LiDAR Incorporated. There's a little more than 2 radars. There are 2 and possibly more radars and a collection of cameras, of course. Industry experts say the photos reveal that the sensors are off-the-shelf products to start with and not produced internally at Apple. So if you're wondering what these autonomous cars that Apple is probably driving around in the streets of Silicon Valley look like, here you go. Although I didn't anywhere on this Lexus spot an Apple logo, which I understand, but that would make me a little bit more confident.
Yeah, I'm sure Mark Bergen has his sources, and they did. Sure. They did say. That was what was written up in the DMV report. The request was it was going to be these kinds of Lexuses or Lexuses. But Nate and I were talking about this last week when it first came out, and we asked like, why always the Lexus? Like, why are all the self-driving cars the Lexuses? And Sam Abul Al-Samid from Navigant Research, he wrote in, and he said they're not all Lexuses. Many are Toyota. You're going to find that most of them will be hybrids because of the amount of electricity required in the autonomous driving system. It makes sense to have a hybrid. And he says Toyota or Lexus hybrids have been available for a long time. They're widely available, and plenty of people understand how they work and how to hack into them to build autonomous driving prototypes.
I just always lump Lexus in the I've got money category, and it's Apple, so of course they're going to have a Lexus. But I'm wrong, obviously. Not the first time. Coming up, we'll talk with Sam Machkovech from Ars Technica about Albert Einstein, and you may be surprised to know they are not, in fact, the same person. But first, let's take a minute to thank Box. They're the sponsor of this episode. Box.com, it's all about centralizing your files and keeping your team on track. That's what you get with Box. Box provides a single place to edit, comment, share, and approve files from any device so you can simplify your workflow. You'll always have the latest version on hand, making it incredibly easy to collaborate with your team. You can preview full documents in more than 120 file types, including PDF and PSD. And it's all done through the cloud, so you're not even downloading. You're streaming it from the cloud. You'll receive real-time notifications when edits are made, and Box will save earlier versions in case you need to go back. You can use the Box app on your smartphone to stay productive wherever you happen to be, so you're never away from those files. You can save files for offline access, though, in case you anticipate missing out on internet connectivity. Instantly send photos or videos from your iPhone or iPad directly to Box if you're using Box Capture. You can keep your desktop, web, and mobile content synced with Box Sync. That's really the power of Box, is keeping everything up to date with the latest changes. Thousands of integrated apps, of course, like DocuSign, Google Docs, and Salesforce. With Box.com, there's no need to send email attachments. You're not sending an attachment. You're sharing large files with team members, customers, and external agencies by using a link or even a custom URL that's provided through Box. You can control permissions, set expiration dates, and secure your files with password protection. You can also remotely log out a user and delete all the Box data on any lost or stolen device to really kind of clamp that down. Meet your organization's content governance and compliance standards with Box. It's FedRAMP, FIPS, FINRA, and HIPAA compliant, and more. Solve data residency requirements with data storage in Europe, Asia, and Australia. You can use Box Platform to create apps that improve customer experiences and streamline business processes. Box offers individual, business, and enterprise plans, and more than 41 million users using it. 59,000 businesses, including 60% of the Fortune 500, trust Box to manage content in the cloud. You can stop relying on IT to build workflow. Box empowers users to take ownership of their work. So transform the way your business collaborates and work as one with Box.com. Just visit Box.com for a free 2-week trial. That's Box.com, and we thank Box for their support.
In a time when science seems somehow simultaneously celebrated and threatened, Ron Howard releases his new miniseries, Genius, featuring Jeffrey Rush as Einstein. Sam Machkovech had a chance to sit down with Ron Howard last month at South by Southwest and is here with us to talk about the series, as well as to catch up on all the biggest gaming news of the week. Hi, Sam.
Hello, hello. How's everyone doing? I have what might look like I was on vacation on my face. No, that is VR goggles, and we can get into that.
Oh, yeah. It kind of looks like maybe a little sunburn, but no, it's just maybe you need to loosen.
Burn.
Yeah,
nerd
burn. That's what it is.
Nerd
You need to loosen
burn.
the straps, I think, a little bit.
Indeed. Yes, I did get to sit with Ron Howard at last month's South by Southwest, and he showed up because he is producing and in some ways directing episodes of Genius, which just premiered this week on the National Geographic Channel, which some people call Nat Geo. I don't do that, except for right now. Genius is an adaptation of an existing Walter Isaacson biography about the life of Albert Einstein. You might better know Walter Isaacson as a biographer of a book about Benjamin Franklin, or probably way more likely the one on Steve Jobs. But this Einstein book he finished in, I want to say 2007. It's just been sort of sitting. It's just a lot of these sorts of life stories that Isaacson is quite good at putting together in book form. And so Nat Geo, I'm doing it now. The station got Ron Howard involved, I want to say about a year ago. He's been doing a series of mini biographies about scientists and innovators and technology people. And they essentially have a deal with Imagine Entertainment, which is Ron Howard's company, to put this stuff together. And that was when Ron took sort of his experience in the very humanized stories about geeks. So Apollo 13 and A Beautiful Mind are sort of the big ones, and said, all right, let's do it with Einstein. And the series that premiered this week starts off with a Ron Howard-esque bang, with a cold-blooded murder followed almost immediately by Einstein having sex with his secretary against a chalkboard that has his own equations on it. And once they're done doing it, he then corrects the parts of the equations that got ripped off on her dress.
That is
Not
a story.
kidding.
I did not learn about that in elementary school science. That is
the
not,
Einstein you didn't know
is
about.
not. Why are we so fascinated? I was reading Gretchen Backe's book about the electrical grid, and she has all these stories about Tesla and the guy who actually discovered the light bulb. It's going out of my mind right now. Edison. I was waiting for that light bulb to appear. Edison and Tesla and like that kind of genius. And we're just like really fascinated. It seems like, especially right now, with these scientific geniuses. But I want to get to a woman that I had not heard of, Mileva Merrick, who I guess was one of Einstein's wives. Was she wasn't the secretary, was she?
No, she was not. She appears because we get to see her specifically in this film or in this series, her very earliest moment when Einstein is about to start university and meets the Serbian woman. And the scene is also very Ron Howard-esque in terms of this woman showing Einstein up. He comes in wondering why there's a woman in my physics class, and then she ends up outsmarting him in a brief conversation. And then there's a whole thing about how she's the only woman who scored higher in the math tests than Einstein had, and all this sort of thing. So we only get a brief taste of her, but the hope is that she figures more prominently on the full show. The actress Samantha Colley, who portrays her, I got to talk to her, and she was very excited and slightly intimidated by the idea of presenting this woman's story to a lot of people who may not be familiar with her as a physicist. Because when we think about theoretical physicists, the men end up being talked about more. So I'm really hopeful that she is humanized and brought out by this series in a bigger way than simply what Walter Isaacson's book happened to do about 10 years ago. But she was pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of slightly hokey stuff and a lot of really good acting, especially Jeffrey Rush, who plays the older version of Einstein, because we're bouncing back and forth between older Einstein and younger Einstein. And so the younger Einstein is facing a lot of, he's very rebellious, pushes against the system. Physics was very different, a lot more rigid, and he came in and sort of blew it up. And the older Einstein is facing a lot of anti-science rhetoric and rising fascism, which the very first episode shows him beginning the emigration process of trying to get to the United States sneakily, and J. Edgar Hoover pushing back against that. So the first episode is that sort of lots of intrigue and human interest stuff, and just enough science to where I go, okay, this is teaching people things in a way that's not obnoxious and is legitimate. So I'm interested to see where it goes. I wouldn't call it a slam dunk, but I wouldn't call it a snoozer either.
And it's not meant to be a full, like, recurring series. This is just they're burning through the story in like 12 or 13 episodes, and then it's done. 10? Okay.
10.
Have you seen only the first one at this
I've
point?
only seen the first one. That's all they were willing to show me. So who knows? Whereas with American Gods, which I watched recently, they gave us 4 episodes in advance. They were a lot more confident about that, in my opinion. But Ron was very clear when I asked about, did you guys go into the editing room and squish stuff together in certain ways in the past, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months? And they said, no, they'd wrapped all this stuff a while back, and that history tends to repeat. So in terms of the things that feel topical about like anti-science rhetoric and government pushing back against scientists, they're like, nah, we've got enough examples of that to not tie it to one specific modern example.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. And you said you got no screeners of The Circle, so you don't have faith in that, huh?
Nope.
Okay. Well, I've already seen some reviews of it, and I guess it's not supposed to be that great. I liked the book. Whoa.
Oh my, poor Tom Hanks. I do like that guy.
I do.
Quit talking about The Circle, man.
Okay, I'll stop. Okay, Mario Kart. Mario Kart 8 is out. What do you think?
I'm trying to think of the songs and the music from it's got a really nice soundtrack. I've been listening to it a lot. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is called Mario Kart 8 Deluxe because it is very familiar. There is a version of Mario Kart that came out on the Wii U, which meant only about 800,000 people played, no more than that, but certainly not as many as the people who played it on the Wii or the N64 or some of Nintendo's bigger systems. The Switch, as you may have heard, it's doing pretty well. And there are a lot of people hungry for Mario Kart already, even if it happens to be one that came out a couple of years ago and is mostly just a port. It's a port. You are getting the exact same tracks that came on the original Mario Kart 8, along with its DLC. There was a season pass where you could get more tracks, and that means you're getting 48 racetracks in all. And that's the most on just a single cartridge or disc of Mario Kart ever. So that's great if they're new to you. And for a lot of people who didn't own the Wii U, they will be. There are a few things that are new. And those include battle mode, which is to say the old battle mode and the older classic, like on the N64 in particular, was skipped on the Wii U version. So that's back for the Switch. They brought it back with a bunch of modes and specific courses. It's all very nicely done. It is everything that I loved in those high school and college days for me when I was playing Mario Kart 64 battle mode with friends. So that is back. That's great. And there's also a couple of little tweaks. So if you're obsessed with Mario Kart and things like 2 item slots or pink sparks, if those weird phrases mean something to you, then you'll really like how they turn out. These little wonky tweaks to Mario Kart that weren't in the Wii U version are very welcome here. But I'd say most importantly is that you can play it on the go in a really smooth way. 720p resolution is not quite 1080p on the if you have it hooked up to your TV, you get the full 1080p signal, but it's really awesome to just be killing time and grabbing a Switch. Wow, I'm mixing up my words. Grab a Switch in your hands and it looks like the HD TV version in your hands, super smooth, super fast, and you're just kicking butt in between. I don't know, you've got a break at work, or you've got the kid, and the kid has gone on a 15-minute nap, and you have that moment. I feel like this has a lot more opportunity in terms of fitting in to older fans of the Mario Kart series lives in ways they might not have. They may not have friends over for those N64 college kind of days, and that little chance to grab the tablet style guy and play legitimate, fast, awesome Mario Kart will be really, really interesting. And then if you want to have friends together, slap it into the dock, grab the little Joy-Cons, get 4 people together on the same TV with those. That's really fun. I'm really enjoying it because it is Mario Kart. It's the best Mario Kart. It's a bit of a ripoff for anyone who bought the Wii U version. They get no coupon, no discount, no nothing. They have to essentially double dip. So that is a bit of a bummer. But for most people who never did buy this one, they're in for a treat.
I'm a big fan of Mario Kart, so watching this video is making me really, really want this game. So I have to ask you, Zelda, Breath of the Wild, or Mario Kart 8? You have to choose one. Which do you choose?
No, you don't. No, I don't have to. I'm a grown-up. I can buy all the games. They're very different.
All right.
I think that Zelda is absolutely phenomenal in that home or go way where you can quest for a while and then go, I'm going to do a little bit of dinky stuff on the bus or whatever. And that's fun, but it's very solitary. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the kind of thing where you can take the system, set it down at the bar, and then grab the little Joy-Cons in a hand. You could just do 2-player at the bar on that screen. I've done this. I love it. I love doing bar Switch play where I've got a drink, I've got a buddy, I say, I'm going to destroy you, buddy. And he goes, it's on, and then set it up with the little dock mode or right there, not dock mode, tablet mode, and just the Joy-Cons work. They're not ideal, they're a little tiny, but you can totally play legitimate Mario Kart on the go. It's cool. It's super cool. I love it.
You're living the Switch promo video.
I do it all, man. I still take it to the gym. I have one Joy-Con in each hand and do the elliptical. I'm not kidding. It is awesome. It's a great way to make like 45 minutes to an hour of cardio go by.
That's a good point.
Wow, that is fascinating. Okay, so something that you're not enjoying, Wilson's Heart, which is a new big budget VR game for Oculus. You're less than impressed. Tell us why.
Well, I don't normally bring up games that are disappointing that you may not have heard of. However, Conan O'Brien sort of saved me some trouble because on an episode I want to say aired last night, maybe the night before, he did his Clueless Gamer segment. And he tends to take relatively big name games and diss them and make fun of them. And game makers seem to love being a part of this. Like, for whatever reason, they think Conan O'Brien crapping on their game is good PR. But I don't think this one worked out very well for Oculus. This is the one where he was frustrated. He wasn't having a good time. He kept making jokes about how he said virtual reality is just meant for sex. Like, that's all he wants to do in VR is put it on and have hot ladies around him. And I know he's playing a character and being silly, but the stuff that he didn't like is actually bad. The game, it sets you inside of a 1940s psych ward. You are, I can't remember your name, Wilson. Oh, right, Wilson, because that's the name of the game. You wake up and you're looking around, you're very confused, and you have to wander around this black and white world. Everything's black and white. And figure out what's going on and start to learn that, whoa, you have powers because someone implanted a metal mechanical heart into your chest, which you can pull out of your chest and use with your hands because you need the Oculus Touch controllers, these little handheld guys, to wave around, hold the stuff up. So you're walking around using your hands and manipulating things. Mm-hmm. The problem is that when you are using all this stuff, the Oculus Touch is not designed for walking around a full room. So you've got your hands, you can move them around, but ideally they have you set up a couple of webcams and they want you to stand still. You can kind of turn, but you're not walking around like with the HTC Vive. So what that means is in this game, when you look at this footage, if you're watching the web version, you're seeing all these sort of dynamic, crazy looking scenes where you're waving hands around and doing stuff, but you're really just standing still and then craning your neck all over your real life until you see a silhouette of yourself in the distance. That's when you tap a button and then you slowly warp into the other direction. So what that means is you don't really feel like you're in the scene. You feel the conflict between real life and virtual life is incredibly strong, and it stinks. Like you're just always, I'm doing a lot of this, and it's really disorienting. So I've actually felt a surprising amount of nausea while playing this that I did not expect, because Oculus lists it as a casual experience, comfortable. The idea that you can get into it and not get sick. But I'm finding I'm having to like look around a lot but keep my feet planted. That's not how I explore and look for things. Yeah. So between that and some really boring puzzles and confusing puzzles, it's just kind of a stinker. There's one other issue though. Did you know that Rosario Dawson is one of the actresses who provides a voice? Did you see anybody in that video who looked anything like Rosario Dawson? No, because I don't know what Oculus is thinking here. They hired Rosario Dawson to play a white woman. And Rosario Dawson's character, this white woman, stands next to a black man throughout the entire experience. These other sort of non-player characters, these helpers appear showing up, standing next to each other. And I look at this and I'm just like, what? How can you not stop and breathe and go, this is an incredibly famous person who's on every Netflix Marvel series is known. You'll recognize her voice immediately. How do you not match that up? How can you have the black person not be the most well-known black person on your cast? It's just, I don't know what to say. It's like so confoundingly stupid that I don't even know. Offended is not the right word. Just blown away. Good job, Oculus. Way to blow that. That's just it. Like, yeah.
Flabbergasted, perhaps.
That's a good word.
Yes, I'm the F word.
the
other one.
Yeah, flabbergasted. We don't need to bleep that. So a thriller, a VR thriller for Oculus. What would you recommend? So Oculus doesn't really have a lot in the way of these adventures where you put something on and you're in it for hours. That still doesn't exist. And one of the big pitches about this was that this would be that game where you put on the headset and you're there for a while and there's stuff happening. The problem is a lot of the puzzles are made by a company called Twisted Pixel. These guys made a bunch of Kinect games that were not very good because they forced you to kind of wave around and do things that we're just more comfortable with the controller. And unfortunately, the same thing has happened here. Now, Oculus Touch is way better than Kinect in terms of sensing and making you feel like you're in a place. But the limits of the system and the terrible puzzles they designed don't do it any favors. So honestly, I'm still waiting. Super Hot on Oculus came out last year, and we loved it then. We still love it now. But if you have Oculus Touch, you probably played that. Robo Recall is a really fun one on Oculus Touch. It comes with the Touch, but you've probably already played that. It's a shoot, shoot, shoot. There's a lot of shoot, shoot, shoot in VR. You stand still, you shoot guns at things. There's enough of that. I was really hoping this would be the more mature, interesting, use your hands to solve puzzles kind of adventure. Not so much. So still waiting. The Vive has a bunch more stuff in that regard, like Call of the Starseed on the Vive. That's a Vive exclusive. That might be on Oculus. If that's on, look for Call of the Starseed. That one is still the best in this vein. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Sam. Sam Machkovech is a culture reporter at Ars Technica. He is at Sam Red on the Twitter. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, guys. I'm going to get back into my nerd tan.
Okay.
All right, we'll see you later. Have a great weekend. Chad writes in about last Friday's discussion that you and Nate had about Microsoft Office. Chad writes, you were discussing how potentially expensive Microsoft could be for schools. It was also said that Office 365 was their web-based offering. Office 365 is not web-based. It's a suite of desktop programs. Microsoft does, however, offer a full suite of Office programs online for free. And he continues, absolutely love the show. Can't live without it. Only wish it were longer.
Longer. We don't get that very often.
We don't get that request very often.
I think that the online version of is also called Office 365. That's what I understand. I think they're both called that.
It's all part of the same suite.
Yeah, well, I think they're different. The online version is different, but I think it's confusing Microsoft stuff. But I think
isn't Microsoft so good at that?
Yes, they are. But I think that they're. So you are right, and we were also right. But what his point was that it's free, the online version.
Right. Has to be because it's up against Google Docs.
Mm-hmm. TNT's fan of the day is a few of you after we asked yesterday to see if we could get some nested submissions. This first one comes from Dingo Dave on Twitter, who appears to be watching TNT from his workshop.
Nice.
So he's watching the fan of the day, which was watching the fan of the day, which was watching the fan of the day, etc. And Peter Kaneki on Twitter, who says, watching TNT on TNT on TNT. You get the picture. See, that's why there's a character limit on Twitter. Otherwise, someone would be compelled to write every time. And finally, Lionel on Twitter, who says, working from home today, watching some TNT and some other Twitch shows. And there it is, the red scarf.
Got 3. Can we get 4?
We can do it.
We can do it.
Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Record a video. Take a picture of yourself or your setup. Post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook. Use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT. We will also accept them via email if you are not a fan of being the fan of the day on social media. TNT at twit.tv.
I was torn on what to do with those because suddenly we got multiples on the request from yesterday. I was like, wait a minute, do I space these out? But that's going to break the chain. So I guess we just kind of have to show them when they come in.
Don't break the chain.
Don't break the chain. That's the first rule of Fight Club. Thanks to Kyle D in the TNT subreddit for this one. MIT is hard at work on a massive mobile 3D printer called the Digital Construction Platform that quite literally can 3D print a building, and it only takes 14 hours to do it, at least in this first example. The machine is enormous. If you look at this picture, it's hard to get the scale, but you can see the door on the building in the background. It almost looks like it's a small little thing on the ground, but no, that thing's gigantic. It's mobile. Not only that, unlike traditional 3D printers that can only print objects that fit inside its print bed, this one constructs around itself using a combination of arms with varying levels of precision. The printing material is a combination of foam and concrete, and in that 14 hours, the machine was able to construct a 12-foot high dome, leaving space for things like wires and pipes to be fed through the walls. And if you skip about halfway through, it starts to show how it's like building it up around it, and it's just so cool. Like it just kind of blows me away. It's portable. Their thought on this is that at some point, these robotic systems would be self-sufficient, that they could put them somewhere. They can gather their own energy because it has solar panels on top to gather energy from the sun. And then they can collect materials on their own and build without any help from anyone else. Just builder robots that just go out there and build stuff.
Just shooting spray foam everywhere to build things. That's a bit terrifying, as I am always a little bit terrified of robots. Also, if that were me building, I would probably forget to leave myself a doorway, which the robot did not. As it's building that little igloo type thing, it leaves itself a way out.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if it did that because it's so big that it can't go all the way around itself, or maybe that was by design where it just kind of stopped and left room for itself so it could back out when it was done. Because, it would enclose itself, and then what do you have? You have a dome for that robot, and you can never use the robot again.
Right.
Yeah, you go in, you can never come out. And actually, also, they have thoughts on this being used in potential Mars missions, like building structures on Mars or something. So crazy stuff. The future. TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 2300 UTC at twit.tv/live. Be part of the show by emailing us at tnt@twit.tv. Leave us a short voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW. And find us on Twitter at Tech News Today TV.
You can share your thoughts on the stories we discuss in the TNT subreddit at technewstoday.reddit.com. And you can subscribe to our show at twit.tv/TNT. And if you want to tweet at me, especially about Office 365, because I feel I am still confused about it, please do. I'm at Megan Maroney.
And I'm at Jason Howell. Thanks to Kara Cole for being our technical director almost the entire week. It's been great having you in here. And Brian, I think, is coming back next week, so we'll see Brian on Monday. Thanks to Alex, of course, for helping out in the studio here. Thanks to Kevin for editing the show, as always. And thanks to you for talking tech with us today. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Bye, everybody.